Hey, Margot, we're not live yet. The go live button wasn't hit. Now it is. Okay. Hey, wow. Brent Leary here, and welcome back. It's been a while since we did a CX Unplugged Commerce Edition, but I feel like it's a bit of a reunion of sorts because we got the whole gang in here today. So we got a quick, fast-paced hitting show for you. So let me just introduce everybody, or welcome back, everybody. Ratul Shah is the head of product marketing, customer data solutions for SAP, of course. Nuno Pedro is the global head of commerce for SAP customer experience. And Maria Morais is the insights director for retail at SAP. Guys, welcome back. I really feel like it's a kind of a reunion of sorts since it's been so long since we all got together.
Thanks for having us, Brent. We miss you.
Right. We're going to get right into it because we kind of really don't have a lot of time to talk about so many things that's going on since we last got together. But I like to start things off with, I always like to bring a data point, a stat or something like that. And so I picked this up from the folks over at Market Pulse. 2020, quite the year. Almost $800 billion of e-commerce done in the U.S. And over the previous 5 years, it was a 15% year-over-year growth with e-commerce. Last year, it was 32%. So I wanted to use that to set the stage to get your impressions of how you thought 2020, that number, those stats, were those a surprise to seeing it grow like it did, or was it all pandemic related? So why don't we start with Maria? And I know you're over in Europe, so feel free to use your numbers instead of the US numbers.
No, nice one. Yes, I have all my numbers here. I think it didn't surprise me because we knew that 50% steady rate is probably below what actually the demand was already, right? So what we saw in 2020 was a supply chain disrupted in so many cases, not able to serve the customers that were wanting to buy online. And yes, there are a lot of first timers, but not just. Right, there's a lot of other people that were looking for that reliable retailer that could fulfill the order. When it comes to the UK, what I really was interested to see this year, and I'm really paying close attention to this, is what's happening in terms of mergers and acquisitions when it comes to retail. And Boohoo.com acquired Debenhams. If this isn't something like amazing to talk about, I don't know what else will be, because we're talking about a 55 million deal and 12,000 jobs at risk.
Wow.
So the symbolism is really stark. So Debenhams is a 243-year-old department store chain, and it was acquired by a 15-year-old online upstart. So we will see Debenhams disappearing from the British high streets. There are, who's next? Because there will be other mergers and acquisitions probably following this trend. And most importantly, is this the type of retail we want to see in the future? Many pure players follow best business practices, but it is impossible to not look at the supply chain of some of the fast fashion type of retailers, particularly that were born digital first, like pure players. And, there was an investigation by The Guardian that found that factories in Leicester are making the company's clothes, below the minimum wage. So Boohoo.com, get your act sorted. And because we need the pure players online to take into consideration these things, minimum wage, etc.
Interesting. All right, Ratul, you're up.
It's a really interesting fact about what the pandemic did. And I think some of that benefit, you'll see those numbers. No one can argue that a lot of people who were looking for the things in malls shifted to digital. Absolutely. So Maria's point, I think we saw the trend that e-commerce was growing. I think there is a percentage that resulted from all of us being in lockdown. But I think when you look forward now, what are we learning from that? 2021 digital transformations accelerated, customer transformations accelerated. And the point that Maria highlighted in regards to smaller digital players buying physical retailers, to me, it's a trend that started with one of our friends up in Seattle and purchasing. How do you bridge the digital and physical worlds together? And this is what I'm really interested in looking forward. So as we look at how customer behaviors are changing, how vaccines are going to help get us out of our caves and back into the physical world, how have we all changed, and how are we going to deliver to the customers? And as a solution provider, how are we going to enable both sides to come together? So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it really is. Nuno, we're getting out of your way so you can unleash on us and what you think here.
I shall unleash, Brent. I think the first thing that I will unleash is I love it. I think it's great for the commerce business, right? So the more growth, the merrier we all are. So I think it's definitely an interesting trend, but it doesn't necessarily come as a surprise, right? I think the growth was already there. What happened was the compression of that growth. And if you think about it, we are all locked at home. So what do? We go to our mobile phone and we start buying stuff. Well, at least a lot of us do. And therefore, I do think that the interesting element that I'm curious to see is how much of that growth will actually stay, because you now have consumers that basically, so before they were a little bit hesitant to take that plunge into the wonderful digital world, and now they have done it and they have seen that it's much more convenient, right? So how many will stay? How many will change to their old ways? That remains to be seen. But then to Maria's point, I do think that there are companies out there that are just not ready for this new reality. So moving forward in the next 1-2 years, we will see some level of consolidation, some emerging players that now probably take the throne of some of the existing players. So I think we're in for a very interesting 21 and 22.
You mentioned throne of existing players, and there is one kind of big throne of an existing player that is about to change, and that's with Amazon's founder and CEO, Jeff Bezos, getting ready to step down. I mean, he's pretty synonymous with the whole idea of e-commerce. So with him moving on and looking into doing different things, what do you think the impact is going to be on not just Amazon, but on e-commerce in general once Jeff leaves center stage? Ratul, why don't you start with that one?
Sure. You know, when I think about what Amazon really did for all of us, it starts with a bookshop idea, but then the next piece of it is, how does he find the products in his repertoire that we need to buy and sell? And then the things that Amazon made household names for us: product recommendations, subscription services, one-touch buys, all of the, like we said, the blending of the physical and digital world with the purchase of Whole Foods. All of these things became mainstream because of him, and we kind of have to take our hat off to that company. But the reality now is, what's next? And I think for a lot of us, we're looking to figure out how we help all of these other brands do the exact same thing. And I think what Amazon does really well is they really understand the customer. They've built their business around putting the customer first. They don't have these departments, you need to call billing, you need to call the call service. No, we talk to Amazon and Amazon talks to us. And because they were able to put the customer at the center of their whole business operation, they're really able to do everything like that. And that's the real piece and advantage that Jeff kind of forecasted for us that we don't talk about. Well, the people in the industry talks about. My mom does, and she just loves the fact that one-day shipping is something that really happens and is so exciting to share. But I think with his departure now, it's going to unlock a lot of different innovations, and I'm really excited to see where other companies take things as well.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I just want to say that he's probably, if he decides to invest in startups and new businesses, I mean, watch out that space. It will be interesting to see what he's picking next, right? I don't have any hint on this. I have no idea what Jeff is going to do, but maybe take some holiday.
There's rumors that he may buy some teams, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, are you putting that rumor out there, Ratul, man, about the,
You always want somebody who has a deep purse buying a team that you love, so that you get the right. You go from small market to mid market. There's a few baseball teams I wouldn't mind him investing in for me.
Yeah,
Rumor is that
I would only add that I think Amazon has, in a way, outgrown its founder, right? And I think the mindset of customer centricity. I mean, who doesn't love the one swipe buy, right? Who doesn't love a central place where you can find everything that you can think about and have it at your doorstep in one day? I mean, and the interesting thing is that the biggest revenue stream is probably not even the marketplace, it's more Amazon Web Services, for God's sake, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, I think we'll continue to see great things from Amazon, no doubt. Definitely curious to see what Mr. Bezos does next. But with a pocket as full as he has, maybe buying a team is the next good step. I would do that for sure and have some fun with it. Yes.
Well, you can look right outside your window and maybe, buy your team, huh?
Exactly. No, I'm actually in a different location today, Brent. So no team today. But this Saturday we have a big match against FC Oporto, and if Sporting wins, then maybe the championship is in order. So fingers crossed there.
There it is. I'll cross them for you, man. Hey, Maria, I want to dig in a little bit more on this concept of small e-commerce players actually making moves on their bigger kind of bricks and mortar counterpart. Can you talk? Do you think that's something that we're going to see more of in the next year or two? Are we going to see like pure play e-commerce, small but nimble and growing quickly, being able to consume these bigger companies that have some pretty interesting assets from a bricks and mortar standpoint to connect the dots in there?
I definitely think, particularly in the fashion sector, that we may find some of those things happening. But the umbrella of all of this is the idea of disruption. And retail was really, at the point of disruption. We could see this trend coming, right? There was a time of, I would say, 10 solid years of omni-channel conversations and changing big companies, and the train departed. And for some companies, that transformation didn't happen. And I think now it may be really difficult if there was no step taken with regards to customer centricity, omni-channel operations, the ability to somehow digitalize the store, to bring into together to the commerce operation, to not have this as two completely different channels, breaking silos, all of these things we've been talking for the last decade in a very solid way. 2020 only demonstrated the need to act on this. So yes, I think there will be more acquisitions like this, but I also know that many big corporate companies in consumer industries were able to transform and continue to stay strong and continue to innovate. But because themselves found ways of disrupting and changing the business models they have. And of course, technology plays a huge part of all of this transformation. And so I think what we may see, though, is that the idea of being a pure player is not that scary anymore. Because it is possible to succeed starting as a pure player. And so I think there may be some natural mergers between bricks and mortar and online retailers that may work really well. Yeah. I don't think that's a bad combination. But maybe other things. I mean, the marketplaces are really growing, and there are niche marketplaces coming. I think the marketplace space will gain traction in the next year as well. But if you want are you asking for predictions, or we go thereafter?
Yeah, look, do a prediction. Give it to us.
Well, I think in all of these pure players, startups, new ideas, 90% will fail, 10% will succeed. That's something
wow.
That's
bold prediction.
Happens.
For me, Maria, what triggered out of your conversation around M&A, I won't predict who's going to merge, but I think the shift that you have is around the customer. And when I think about what you're talking about, whether it's a digital player buying a physical one or a physical one buying a digital, what I hear is they're trying to get closer to their customer. I mean, a lot of us saw this with buy online and pick up in store, or click and collect. That is all about getting closer to your customer and what they need. And I think if you as a legacy business were not able to make the digital transition, you're looking for partners that can do to provide the other half. And the same with the digital to get things quicker. You know, there are certain things you want delivered. There are certain things you want on subscription, but there are certain things you want to actually touch and feel. And I think that's the understanding. And there's only so much that augmented reality and all of these other touch points can really do. And so I think these are natural marriages around, once again, who is the customer? And I think it'll come through getting closer to the customer, making sure you're understanding their privacy regulations, the data sharing back and forth between all of these interactions to really help people know who you are. So my prediction is more businesses, these are going to happen because more businesses want to get closer to their customer.
All right, man. I can't believe it. We're already at the end of this, but we can't end without Nuno unleashing once more, giving us a prediction. It could be on what we just talked about, or you could go completely off the board and bring us something completely
all right
we haven't talked about here.
Yeah, so I've been looking at my crystal ball last night just to prepare for this. And I would say that maybe two different predictions, right? So number one is broader economic context. So there's too much money out there. Some people might disagree with me, but investors, having a return of 10% nowadays, it's a bad deal, right? So there's a lot of money. Interest rates are super low. A lot of money. We are in somewhat of a bubble, I would say, and I'm curious to see if the bubble bursts. Maybe it doesn't, but when it does, I think a lot of that money, VC money, is going to startups. A lot of startups in the digital scene, and a lot of those. Maybe I'm wrong, but you will have a good number of startups not really making it and really falling down on their face a little bit. So number one. Number two, the second prediction is actually more related with commerce. I think what you just showed, Brent, in the beginning about commerce growing, I think a more interesting analysis is where is commerce growing? So in which channels? Because up till now, at first it was a website, then it was the mobile first revolution. I think we're approaching another turn point where we have live commerce, where we have Instagram checkout, where we have voice, Internet of Things. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 1, 2, 3 years, we are going to see a significant shift in the whole e-commerce space to really say, the total pie is growing, but it's growing across multiple different channels. And therefore, companies like SAP, like many others, we need to pivot and we need to understand that we need to operate in these different channels in order to make sure that our customers are successful.
It's all
That's
about
what we call,
your customer.
Yeah, that's kind of what we call a mic drop there. After
all right,
that was awesome. Oh, you got another? Okay.
We're going to space with Jeff Bezos. So when Jeff leaves, he's going to take Nuno to space with him. That's my prediction.
So that's where you want to send me, Ratul? Don't do that.
Well, think about the coverage we could get with our next podcast, Nuno. It's like it's not just global anymore across the pond. We're talking about across the universe.
Imagine all the Martians just looking and thinking, "Wow, how cool is that?" That's a good idea. Let's do that.
Wow. Okay. Well, I wasn't really expecting the show to end in space, but hey, that's cool. That's good stuff. But I really appreciate bringing the team back together. It's been great talking with Maria, Ratul, and Nuno. And thank you all for joining us. And look out. There's so many things that we just talked about, and we didn't even touch on some of the things like, the whole Bitcoin thing, and if that's going to change in the commerce. Maybe later. We'll talk about it later. But thanks again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.